Right. So yesterday we have navigated to general ledger. So anybody can guide me how I can open chart of accounts here in Dynamics navigation, please.
General ledger.
Okay, continue.
Uh, uh, well, please tell the navigation. General ledger and yes, guys,
Chart
you
of
are on
accounts.
mute. Chart of
Chart
accounts,
of
yes.
accounts and chart of accounts.
And chart of accounts, good. So within that, so what is the chart of account that we have created yesterday? We have named it company name. It's here. Then we have created few accounts in this chart of accounts. So to create a new account, what should I click? Another main account. I want to create another main account. So what should I click? Your voice is breaking.
New.
Seriously,
Yeah,
guys,
your voice is breaking. I thought it was my network issue, but same thing with the others.
well, let me take care of it then. Thanks for reminding it early. Then I'll just connect this mobile data only. Should not stop. How about now? Is it okay?
Yeah, clear. Now it's clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So can somebody guide me how we can create a new main account within this chart of accounts?
Just click
new.
new.
Okay, click on new. I have two news, one new here and another new here. Which new?
Main accounts.
Main accounts.
Main
New.
account.
So, okay, it's under main accounts. I can click new. Then I can create a account. So I can create an account. I'll just give it as 5,05,000. Miscellaneous expenses. Then I give the expense account. So today, let us discuss about this menu. Here we have a small menu, right? So this menu is related to various activities that we do in Dynamics with respect to the main account. So this few things that we have here controls this main account actually, or controls the activities that we do with the help of main account. So let's see what each of them are up to. We will discuss few of them which are important for now, and there are few that we have to discuss on the later part. We'll come back again into this page to discuss that later things. Okay, so I'll show you one here. In this account, I'll show you. So this one part, main account, how to give a number to the main account, then the name of that particular main account, then the type of that main account. So we have few types: profit and loss, revenue, expense, which will three particularly fall into the profit and loss accounts, balance sheet, asset and liability, and equity. So these four specifically fall into balance sheet accounts. Then total means these total accounts, the accounts that you give account type as total generally are not used for accounting. So they are only used for the reporting purpose. Suppose I give total cash as a account here, I'll create an account as total cash, and within that I have cash, petty cash, and other cash accounts if there are any. So these three balances combinedly form total cash balance, but total cash account is never used for transactions or to create any transactions. So such kind of total accounts also you can create. Normally we have seen right in the Chinese as well as in the Brazilian chart of accounts, most of the accounts are given total. So in Indian chart of accounts also some accounts can be given as total, or you can maintain total accounts also, which are just act like a dummy accounts, only used in representation of totals, wherein you are preparing any balance sheet reports or profit and loss reports or any revenue reports or operating expense reports like that. So you can use that total account to put all the total balance in that total account normally. So other than that, normally we don't use totals. And reporting is only specifically for reporting purpose only. So there will be some accounts like gross profit account. So you don't use gross profit account here for accounting purpose, right? It is only used for defining the gross profit or there is another account called net profit. You use these kind of accounts only to calculate the gross profit or net profit. That too when you prepare a profit and loss account, right? So that kind of accounts will fall into reporting. So only used in the purpose of preparation of reports. Again, these common accounts, those are not specifically used. Actually, this is only for Brazilian companies, I think, and in other parts of the world or another other companies does not use these common accounts. So the most important are these few, and these two sometimes will be used, total and reporting, for the purpose of reporting only. Okay, people actually give different numbers. So yesterday we have seen, right, our numbering stopped at 6999. So there will be other numbers also, right, like 7 series, 8 series and 9 series. So they will use that 7, 8 and 9 series accounts for such kind of reporting accounts and total accounts. Sometimes total accounts will be within this only. I mean, in the sim numbers they will give, but reporting accounts and additional accounts like error accounts or any other suspense accounts, such kind of accounts, they will give different numbers other than these numbers that fall into these categories. So that are few types we have. So when somebody asks you about main account type, what will you explain in the interview? Anyone? Just tell me an overview of what you have understood about what is a main account type. Anyone? Susila?
Understood the topic, but actually how to define an interview means
Okay, that's okay, no problem.
yeah,
And I don't
I understood
know.
the topic actually, but formation.
Okay, thanks that you understood.
Yes.
No problem. But I mean, if at all you face such question in interview, generally say that main account type is the nature of the account that we give. So we will obviously plan what kind of accounts we have in business. So depending on the numbering that we give and the decided nature of the account, like expense or revenue or balance sheet asset or liability. So we will give that main account type to the account. That's all. You just can normally generally say that answer. There is no specific definition for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Then coming to the next one, main account category. So actually you can categorize or group few main accounts into a category like cash account and petty cash account, and other accounts can be grouped as cash accounts. So if I have 4 or 5 bank accounts like SCCA Bank, SBI Bank, and some other banks, HDFC Bank. So all these bank accounts or the main accounts that are linked to these particular banks can be categorized under bank group. So bank category. So again, operating expenses can be categorized under operating expense category. So I can create such categories that I want. So for each account, I'll give that category. Suppose for all the cash accounts, I'll give the account category as cash. So see here, I think I might have few. So these were all already created. This is a global page actually, so I can see all of them. I see accumulated depreciation, administrative expenses, accounts payable, receivable. I will also definitely have cash in this. So I see cash, but since this is an expense account, I go for non-operating expense if there are any. I know any other types of expenses if we have administrative expenses. So it's like this. So which expense like this miscellaneous expenses will fall into the main account category of administrative expenses. So there will be few other expense accounts which will fall into administrative expenses. So at the end, why this is useful is if you want to prepare a report for what are the balances that are there in administrative expenses, you can easily prepare a report based upon the main account category, or you can use this main account category to group the few accounts that you have, that 4-5 accounts, and you can see the balances for those 4-5 accounts or how much you have expended on the 4-5 accounts that for the administrative tasks. You can use main account categories in that way. To create main account categories, actually you have a menu here. I'll just duplicate this. So generally you can create from here also by right click on here, and you can go to view details. But normally in general ledger under chart of accounts only, accounts, I have main account categories option here. So if I click here on main account categories, I can see this categories created: cash category, cash and cash equivalents, sorry, cash equivalents, then accounts receivable category, like that. So you can create one category here and you don't have to add anything else here. You can just create category and you can link that category to main accounts that you would create in the chart of accounts. Not mandatory that you have to, but sometimes if you would link that, it would be really useful for preparation of reports. Or so the agenda of maintaining accounts is at the end is to prepare reports and to maintain data consistency, right? So they will use the available options for such preparation of reports or easy categorization of the accounts. So this would be helpful, the main account category. So when somebody asks in interview about main account category, say that we can group a few main accounts as into a category. We can create a category and assign that category to the particular main accounts. They would be helpful in the preparation of reports in the later part or in the end operations. You can say like that. So that's with main account category. Then we have default debit or credit. We know this default debit or credit will be driven by this account type that we select here. So it is an expense, it will be debit. So all the expenses are always debit. All the revenues are always credit. All the assets are always debit and all the liabilities are always credit. The nature of those accounts is so. So it will be, this field will be driven by debit or credit. I mean, driven by the account type that you have selected here. Sometimes it can be a profit and loss account. Suppose profit and loss account, suppose if I select, it can be both nature. It can be debited and credited irregularly. We don't have a pattern for such kind of account. Then what happens is I may not select anything. I can select this empty blank line we have on the top. I can select on the blank and it will show up as blank. If you don't want, చెప్పు శేషు.
అది ఒకసారి అకౌంట్ కేటగిరీ మళ్ళీ చెప్పు, నాకు కొంచెం వాయిస్ లాగ్ అయింది, అర్థం కాలేదు.
ఓకే, దిస్ అకౌంట్ కేటగిరీ.
అదే ప్రాబ్లం అయింది, లాగ్ అయింది వాయిస్, లైక్ స్టక్ అయిపోతుంది ఒక పార్ట్ లోనే.
ఓకే, sorry for that. I mean, I don't know where the problem is, but still I'm trying. I'll explain you, no problem. So main account category is like you can group few, I mean, see, I have some categories here as cash, cash equivalents and inventory, something like that. So if there were some 10 main accounts which are related to my inventory, so that I have created here 10 main accounts. Okay. So for all those 10 main accounts, I'll give this category as inventory. So which means it explains like all the 10 main accounts will fall into the inventory category. So at the end, sometime whenever I have to prepare any report for my inventory accounts, so I can pull a report with accounting category or main account category. Since I have assigned that inventory category only to 10 accounts, so for that 10 accounts, I can filter easily. Rather than going for each account, I can filter all the 10 accounts at a time by using this main account category or prepare a report or quick report on the basis of main account category. So we normally group accounts. So few cash accounts will fall into this cash category. The same way certain accounts, receivable accounts. So there will be domestic receivables and foreign receivables or any other account receivables. So you can group all those three accounts into accounts receivable accounts such that so those three revenues will be grouped under accounts receivable. Whenever you have to prepare any report or find out only the balances for those three accounts on the basis of a category, you can do that with the help of this account categories, main account categories. So you can categorize your accounts based upon the nature of those accounts. So there will be an internal nature of the accounts like non-operating revenue, non-operating expenses. Within non-operating expenses, again, you will have administrative expenses, or again, you will have another kind of expenses. So you will have office expenses separately. You will have stationery expenses separately. So within stationery, again, you might have certain other expenses. So like that, you can categorize or group your accounts or a set of accounts into a category. Small set of accounts into a category. So chart of accounts holds all the accounts, but within chart of accounts, again, these subcategories or main account categories can be helpful for grouping short group of accounts by the nature of the account or by the necessity of the account or by the purpose of the account. Understood, guys?
Okay, fine, Javi.
Coming back to this one, default debit or credit. Actually, whatever I select here, according to the nature of that account type, that will be selecting default debit or credit here. But this does not drive you or does not uh, control you to post only debit or only credit to that particular main account. So this is just a default debit or credit which will be assigned according to the type of account type that you select here. That's all. But there is one option here called as debit or credit requirement. In this case, suppose if I say it is debit, which means I cannot post any credit transaction to using this main account. So if I use this main account, I always have to post debit values only. Anytime I use this main account, I always have to debit this account. I can't credit this account. Whenever I do such credit, it will say that this account is having a control that only debit is the requirement for this account. You cannot post credit transactions for this account or crediting this account. You can't post any transactions. So it gives a error message or warning saying you can't go ahead. So user can't post any such transactions that credits this particular main account. Miscellaneous expenses. So you can keep such kind of control. Normally they don't keep control for any account. But if there are any such, I mean, you can't remove it. You have to go back here and click on this empty page such that you can, if I keep it empty, I can post debit or credit anything according to my requirement. Okay, sometimes like if here this account I have debited and credited the cash account and paid some miscellaneous expenses. At one point of time, if I have to reverse that particular transaction or feel that that is a wrong transaction, I have to reverse it. Then I can't credit it when here the control is like only debit allowed. So I can't reverse the transaction, right? I can't credit the miscellaneous expenses for reversing it because there is a control here indicating only debit has to be posted for that account. Then it would be trouble. So usually they left it over. But if there are any particular accounts which has to be compulsorily debited and compulsorily credited all the time, then you can give for those particular accounts, you can give the debit or credit requirement. That's all.
Oh, JB.
చెప్పు శేషు.
ఇన్ దిస్ అంటే ఈ సిచ్యుయేషన్ లో ఇప్పుడు అక్కడ మెయిన్ అకౌంట్ టైప్ కేటగిరీ ఇచ్చాం కదా మనం అడ్మినిస్ట్రేటివ్ ఎక్స్పెన్సెస్ అని చెప్పేసి.
ఇచ్చాం.
సో ఆ కేటగిరీలో ఉన్న ఏవైతే సబ్ చైల్డ్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో అవి మొత్తం ఇప్పుడు ఇఫ్ ఇన్ కేస్ డెబిట్ ఆర్ క్రెడిట్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ లో మనం డెబిటే ఇచ్చామనుకో అవి మొత్తం ఇంకా డెబిటే అవుతూ ఉంటాయా?
అన్ని డెబిట్ అవుతూ ఉంటాయి. ప్రతిసారి నువ్వు ఒక్కొక్క అకౌంట్ కి సపరేట్ ఇవ్వాలి మళ్ళీ.
ఓకే.
ఇప్పుడు ఎక్స్పెన్స్ అన్నిటికీ నువ్వు ఇక్కడ డెబిట్ ఆర్ క్రెడిట్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ డెబిట్ ఇచ్చావు అనుకో, ఇంకా అన్ని డెబిటే చేయాలి, ఎప్పుడు క్రెడిట్ చేయడానికి అవ్వదు. ఓకే, సో దే డోంట్ యూజ్ ఇట్ లైక్ దట్. So చెప్పాను కదా, there might be situations where you have to reverse few transactions or sometimes you have to credit your expenses. Who knows?
Okay, fine.
So then again every time you have to go back to that account and change the requirement or make it blank again in order to move ahead with the transaction. So it would be real trouble.
Okay. So better అది blank ఉంచుకుంటాం.
Better keep it blank only for few accounts, like one or two. If you have any requirement or client is very particular, then you can suggest they can keep this one. Okay,
fine, JB.
Right. So we have another option called as balance control. Actually, this particularly work with like this debit or credit requirement only. If I said debit or credit here means, so balance control or the movement of balance will be the same way. It should be always debited or it should be always credited. Again, this almost all both of them will work in the same way. Okay. So which explains like I always have to add balances or only debit the balances here, even like the debit or credit requirement. So balance control also almost works in the same way. Maybe keep it as this one only, but other than this there is another balance control which is really important. I'll explain you that balance control, which for that you have to configure few small things. So I'll show you at that point. So actually we have that balance control accounts here itself in the main accounts page only, I think so. Yeah, here itself I have balance control account, so I'll show you that later. So then I have few things here. It's called as opening account I have here. So this opening account is generally used for year-end closure process. Sometimes, suppose what I felt is this 5 lakhs 5 miscellaneous expense account is no more. I no more want to forward this account. Like, these expense accounts are not forwarded, and expense account balances are not forwarded to next year actually. But I'll pick a asset account. Okay, I'll just refresh this page. Let me go back and come back again. Okay, I'll go for this cash account. Suppose in the year-end closure process, what happens is this year we have some cash balance in our cash account. Here in this cash account, we have some 10 lakhs. I want to transfer this 10 lakhs account to next year. Normally, when we carry forward the balances from this year to next year, all the assets and liabilities and the balance sheet account balances will be transferred to the, those particular accounts only to the next year. The expense account, revenue and profit and loss account balances will not be transferred or carried forward to the next year. The difference of amounts of expense and revenues or that particular gross profit or net profit amount will be transferred to retained earnings account. That's all. So this expense, revenue and these balances for this year will not be carried forward to next year. So next year, expense and revenues, everything will start from zero. But coming to assets and liabilities, they will be transferred, and the balance sheet accounts. So all these three categories, equity also as well. All these four main account types, some balances will be transferred to next year. So in case I feel like this cash account has to be discontinued. So this cash account is an asset account, right? So this cash account has to be discontinued for this year, and from next year I will use another number for cash account. Like I'll use 1,01,000 as a cash account from next year, or I'll just name it as cash 2. So like that, any name I'll give. I want to discontinue this number and this account completely. So then what I'll do is I'll keep this opening account here. I'll keep the 1,01,000 account here. This cash account balances what I have will be transferred to the opening account. Whenever in the year-end transfer, that will be transferred to the new account that you have created. Then you can suspend this cash account, or you can regulate this cash account. To suspend this one account, you have this option here as suspend. We'll come back to that point. But in case if you want this account balances to be transferred to a new account while you transfer the year-end closure balances from this year to next year, so that account you can give here. That you can create that new account here, and you can give that account here. Suppose I can give this account here. In the same way, you can create that new account and give that account here. So that's with opening account. Not obviously most of them will use this opening account. So if in case they want such kind of accounts, what they usually do is they'll create account. They'll normally transfer the balances from cash account to that particular cash account, another cash account if they create. So this will be credited where balance will become zero. That will be debited where balance will show up as some positive amount. So they'll post a normal entry rather than using this and all. But there is an option also if you want to use. That's what. Then I have few options here under administration. I see do not allow manual entry. If I enable this do not allow manual entry, users cannot post any manual entries using these accounts. This cash account, they can't debit or credit this account, or they can't post any transaction using this cash account. Usually these kind of do not allow manual entries are used only for such accounts like accounts payable and accounts receivable, because this accounts payable account will be linked to vendors. So whenever we do any vendor transaction, this accounts payable account also will be parallelly debited and credited according to the vendor transaction. So these kind of accounts will be used to reconcile, the vendor balance is there and the total accounts payable balance here. So the combined vendor balance there will be reconciled to the accounts payable balance here. It should be the same always. So for these kind of accounts, they don't allow users to post manual entries. They'll regulate users from posting manual entries, but these are used as a backend account for vendor account. So whenever vendor is selected and debited, this accounts payable account also will be parallelly debited along with that vendor account. So we'll see that mechanism, how it works. But this is entirely for these kind of accounts. Accounts payable accounts, accounts receivable, and the main accounts that we link to banks are also given as do not allow manual entry, or also choose it to be not to allowed as manual entry accounts. Those are main accounts that we link to bank accounts. So we separately create bank accounts in cash and bank management. But for every bank account we create, we'll give a separate main account or link a separate main account. So whenever we do any bank transaction, this particular main account linked to that bank account will be parallelly debited or credited. So such kind of accounts are not allowed for manual entry. So you can use it as do not allow manual entry for such accounts. then users can't directly use it in journals. But whenever they use that particular bank or vendor instead in the transaction, then this will get affected. But this account itself cannot be used. The 2000 number cannot be copied and used for transaction. That's with do not allow manual entry. Then we have this option active from and active to. You can keep this account active from and active to for a specific dates. If you say like this account will only be active from today until end of December 31st, and later it will not be active anymore. It will be inactive. So as the example I was saying about the cash account, if I want to stop this account after this year, I can say like active to date only up until 31st December 2021. So after 31st December 2021, user cannot use this account or post any transactions using this account because it is inactive. It will become inactive since you have given a date that it will be active until that date only. If you want to change that, you can change the date or remove the date. So if I don't give any dates here, the account will be active forever. Okay, so you can control or you can give some dates here to control the account's activity or the status of the account. So that's one. And
So
another
in this,
option.
yeah, in this case, no need to maintain that opening account, right? So we will give the dates active from and active to. So in that case, is that helpful opening account?
In that case, it will, inactivate this account, but the other account should be active, right, instead of this account. So for that purpose, we have to create that new account, right?
Okay.
And
so I have to create that new account. Will transfer this to that, right?
Yeah, balance
so this
transfer
account will be deleted. Okay.
Yeah, transfer the existing balance in this account to that new account, and this account will be inactive from then.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that. Okay.
Here here in this date concept, the account totally will be inactive, right?
Yeah, if you give whatever dates you give, in between those dates only the account will be active. Suppose if I give the active date from starting of July until end of December, December 31st.
So here
2021, for this few months only, this account will be active. After that, it will become inactive automatically after this date.
Okay, there is no balance transfers as well. Account transfers as well.
You can't do any transactions with that account anymore.
Okay.
And if you remove the date again, you can do it.
Okay.
So that's kind of date control. Again, I have a temporary control here, suspended. So this will almost act like the same, but there is no need of date. If I click this suspended button here, if I activate this account cannot be used for further transactions. Temporary suspension. And if I click here again, unsuspend it and check out this box, then I can use this account again. Okay, this is with dates control. This is normally with a small click, you can control this account. If there are any problems with this account or there are any confusions about the transactions that are posted in this account, and you no more want to post any transactions until and unless the confusions were settled or the errors were cleared, you can say like suspend this account until then. No user is allowed to post any transaction in this account until then. And later, once everything is cleared, you can unsuspend it such that this account will be active once again. So for that purpose, we can use it. Sometimes they might try to post transactions for suspended accounts and they'll end up having an error message saying this account is suspended. Please check with your admin. So you have to unsuspend the account if you want to use it, or they will change the account and use another account if they want. So that's with this controlling of account, guys, this administration. So any confusion in this? Anybody?
So if the date crossed after the active to date, so can we get back that account into an active state, right? Can we get back that account into active state?
Definitely. You can remove the date and it will be active again, or you can give
so
it later.
Both
later
is a temporary suspension, right?
Yeah, both are temporary, and you don't have any permanent suspensions for accounts here. Not at all. Okay. Right. So I have another one here. This option called as field to transfer balance on closing sheet. Actually, this closing sheet is a operation or activity that we use before the year-end closure process. Usually, in this closing sheet, what we do is we will do internal adjustments between one account to other account before we prepare our reports or before we transfer our balances from this year to the next year. After the internal adjustments are done from one account to other account, we can transfer the balances to next year. So in this closing sheet, what happens is all the accounts and their balances will be seen, and it will be easy for you to move the balance from one account to other account in when you can see all the balance in a single page, right? So this closing sheet works in that way. In case if you want to transfer this account balance into another account during that closing sheet, so this is before the year-end closure, you can use this. I mean, generally that will be transferred. Normally you can transfer it, but so what is it? It will be a balance or capital. Mostly it will be balance or capital. Result nobody will use result. So capital means, so this capital accounts or the equity will be transferred. The balance means normally the account balances like asset balance and liability balance will be transferred from this account to another account in closing sheet. But you don't have to give it here. There in again closing sheet you have this option on large scale rather than giving it for individual accounts here. So we will see this, or we will come back again to discuss about this point during year-end closure process that we will discuss at the end of this course. Okay, so let it be like that until then. So there is no control about this. Then we have default consolidation account. Actually, this is a chart of accounts that we are creating for a legal entity. Suppose there is a consolidation company. I mean, there is a group company for which you have to consolidate the accounts of all the subsidiary companies or transfer the balance of all subsidiary companies to show up the consolidated balances. So if that consolidation company is using any other chart of accounts, suppose cash account here is like 1 lakh, right? So in their accounts, cash account is 1 lakh 4, suppose in the consolidation company's chart of accounts, or if it is 2 lakhs 4, if they're following assets as 2 series. So then you can give that number, cash account number here, such that whenever you do consolidation, this cash account balances will be transferred to that cash account in consolidation company's chart of accounts, that 2 lakh 4 account if there is any. So it will be helpful in that way. Otherwise, during consolidation process, we have another way to match the main accounts. So which account matches to the cash account, we can give that particular account there in the consolidation sheet before we run the consolidation. So there is also another process other than this. But for individual accounts, just for purpose of showing up, or at least this also works normally for consolidation. But there is another way to, as I told you. If for each account, if you have configured it like this, the consolidation accounts clearly, then you can run the consolidation directly. But in case if you did not configure, you have to work on the consolidation sheet for matching the accounts from this chart of accounts to that chart of accounts for consolidation. Usually they'll maintain same chart of accounts to maintain the harmony in consolidation. For all the legal entities, they'll use same chart of accounts, or we call shared chart of accounts. But if there are any differences, then you have to give that matching, you have to match that accounts from one to other. We'll discuss that part again in the consolidation. So we will come back again to this page, no problem, don't worry. Then we have some option called as default currency for this cash account. So we don't have any default currency given here, but normally whatever the accounting currency we use for our company will be the default currency for this account. Okay. So if in your legal entity US dollar is your accounting currency, by default the transaction that you do will take the currency as US dollar only. But if you want any foreign currency account, suppose I have a foreign cash management account. So cash euro, suppose euro cash. So for that I'll give default currency as euro. So then what happens is whenever I do any transaction with that particular main account, the transaction currency, or I mean the currency that in the transaction will automatically change to euro rather than US dollar. So it will automatically take the, transaction currency as euro directly from here. Since the default currency for this account is euro only, so all the time I do transactions in euro only. Yes, Yeshu, I can't. You can speak up. What happened? Hello.
JP.
Yes, JP. Okay then. Okay, bye.
Bye.
So that's with default currency, guys. Then we have another option like validating default currency. So these two are important here, optional or required. So if at all I am using that particular main account, if at all I give euro here as default currency and I am doing a transaction with US dollar, so how the validation should be like? It should be optional or required. So if it is optional means system will not bother about what currency you have selected. Although you have euro as default currency, system will not stop you. But if you say required means anytime you do any transaction using this main account, it should be in euro only. So that's about validating the currency. It will validate and stop you here. So that's with validating currency code. Only these two will be used mostly. That's single valid option, multiple valid options. So these are not required. So only when we use this foreign currency, other currency, then we use this option if at all required. Otherwise, it will be optional only like this. Then I have this one, foreign currency revaluation. Okay, this is enabled, yes or no. Okay, whenever you enable this one, so this particular account is picked for foreign currency revaluation process. So there are a lot of accounts in business. You only use few accounts for foreign transactions. So whatever accounts that you use for foreign transactions will be marked for foreign currency revaluation. So foreign currency revaluation is generally a process which is used to calculate unrealized gains and unrealized losses on the trade or on any other transaction. So we will see that process of foreign currency revaluation. But remember this point that this particular main account is considered for foreign currency revaluation only when this account is given as yes. I mean this option is given as yes for that particular main account. Okay. So I'm offing it for now, but later when we come at the point of foreign currency valuation, I'll enable yes for that accounts, and for those few accounts we do foreign currency transactions. Okay. Then for doing foreign currency transaction for this account, what is the exchange rate type that you want to use? So we have created one exchange rate type MRF, right? So we will use it. If at all, you may not use it here. Normally when we run foreign currency valuation, there also we can indicate which exchange rate type we have to use for foreign currency valuation process. So no need to give it individually for each main account. You can give it separately. Okay. So that's with this menu. Later we have something called legal entity override. Suppose if we are using it as a shared chart of accounts, or we are using this for 2 or 3 legal entities, we can give control for each legal entity. So we can't see it here because this is not assigned to any legal entity yet, right? This chart of accounts is not being used. We just created a draft. But if you want to understand this, I'll go to another chart of accounts. Suppose I'll go for this one, which is named as shared chart of accounts here. This is being used for multiple legal entities. So if I click on this account, you see here, if I go down, I see there is a legal entity here. So I can add multiple legal entities. So it is being added in these few legal entities I see here. So all of them are using same shared chart of accounts. Suppose I'll go for this one, Conto. So Italy is another legal entity. I'll select this legal entity here and I can suspend this account for ITCO. So since I am using this chart of accounts for 3 or 4 legal entities, I can suspend this account only for one legal entity. The other legal entities for which are using this chart of accounts, you can use this same main account for transactions. Okay, but only for ITCO I'm suspending it. But if I suspend it here, it will be suspended for all the legal entities. For all the legal entities, if I'm using shared chart of accounts or same chart of accounts, then in no company I can use this account and post any transaction. But if I do it here, it is only specific for one legal entity, not for all the legal entities. So that's with this. And we also have active from and active to dates, which also work like the same almost here, but here it is for all the legal entities. Here it is specific to one legal entity. Okay, we have certain options. Exchange rate option. Again, this is for this purpose only, foreign currency valuation exchange rate type. This one you can give specifically for this legal entity. You can give an exchange rate type if you have any separate one configured. Then we have this default dimensions option. We will see this later part on default sales tax configuration because we did not configure dimensions and sales tax yet. But tomorrow we will, in the next class, we will discuss about dimensions. Later, anyway, we'll discuss about tax also. So we will discuss this part then. So this legal entity overrides concept will be used for conditions that we can give for individual legal entities when the same account or same chart of accounts is used for multiple legal entities. For sub individual legal entities, we can give some control for the account here within in this page or in this menu. You can select that legal entity that you want to control, select that legal entity, add it here, and then control the account in that legal entity. Suppose you want to suspend for this one also, GLMF, I can suspend it. And if you want to take off the suspension, you can remove this. Or if you don't want any legal entity overrides, you can remove it like this. I mean, I think you can remove it one by one. Yes. And I mean, I will remove this ITCO. Okay. So this is how we use legal entity overrides option. So there is more to discuss on this. We will see once we create some transactions, we can come back and test this. There is something for posting validation and financial reporting. This is entirely for reporting purpose. So for reporting purpose, normally we do foreign transactions, right? So for the reporting purpose for the foreign transactions, we can use a certain exchange rate, particular exchange rate for converting the balances. Usually balances are converted on daily basis as if we use daily exchange rates. In case for preparation of reports, if you want a separate exchange rate, you can use that. So this will be here, financial reporting exchange rate. You can use one reporting exchange rate, and currency translation method. You can use weighted average or average. Current method or transaction date. Transaction date means whenever the transaction is done, that particular date's exchange rate is considered for each and every transaction for in the report preparation. Weighted average means normally it will take the statistical way of weighted average calculation of the exchange rates depending on the rate and number of days. Like that. So if you select one, then only it will. But if you don't select any, it will usually select what the default exchange rate type we have selected for the legal entity that we will select in the ledger page. After 2 classes, I'll show you how we can select the default exchange rate type for a legal entity. Okay. And advanced rules, we don't have any advanced rules configured yet, but we can do it for accounts. We will see that advanced rules part in configuration of account structure. Okay. So that is all actually with the main account menu. The most important are these few things and legal entity overrides. Okay, you might face.
Yeah, can you please explain this legal entity overrides once?
Okay, as I was telling you, this a chart of accounts can be a shared chart of accounts, which means it can be used for more than one legal entity. So this is a shared chart of accounts actually. It is used for all these legal entities. As I can see here, all these legal entities are using the same accounts, same chart of accounts.
Okay.
But the accounting entries, the balances, the transactions will be separate for each legal entity. Okay. But they are using same pattern of accounts, one chart of account, that's all. But balances will differ from legal entity to legal entity. Remember that point. Okay. Since all the legal entities are using these accounts or these same accounts, I want to suspend one account for one of the legal entity, not for all the legal entities, but for one of the legal entities. Then I can select that legal entity here, like I have selected ITCO here. I will select this one, GLCO. Okay, I'll click on add here. Then it will be added. So I will suspend this one separately. So then this account will be active only, but only for GLCO, it will be suspended. But if I suspend it here, as I said, it will be suspended for all the legal entities.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, I can give default sales tax codes only for this legal entity. If I select this here and click here. Okay. So I have few more options like this. Give exchange rate type for foreign currency revaluation separately for this legal entity. Then I have this active from and active to separately for this legal entity like that. Okay, so that's one I have about legal entity overrides. We also have this in other part as well. I'll also explain it there itself. So then that would be all about the main account menu. So we have few things here: name translations, account statement, total accounts and all. So if there are any total accounts, you can just click here and I can see the total accounts actually here. I don't have any total accounts in this as well. I think so. I'll generally create one account. Okay, let me create this account. Like name test account, and if I keep this account as total, okay, and I save this. Cannot create a there is a record exists already, so then I'll change it as 98. Suppose, yeah, this is being saved. So saved, then I create total accounts. I don't see this here. Actually, I have to see, but we'll see. This one is also total account, I think. Yeah. Okay, I see the total accounts in the top now. Okay, fine, let it be. But I have one thing called as account statement again. So what happens with the account statement is whenever you use this account statement option, all the transactions that you posted using that particular main account can be printed using this account statement. It takes a while to load actually, but it will bring up a kind of report. So I'll show you when we post some transactions, how to print an account report. For that particular account, what all the transactions you have posted can be printed, report can be extracted. Takes a lot of time. So that's all with this main account menu, guys. Actually, keep these points that I've explained in mind. So this will be really helpful for you in implementation as well as in support. While in support, you might be users might be facing issues with this one. Like if this account is suspended, the message or this account is not allowed for manual entry message, or sometimes this account will be controlling these debits and credits, or they may not be allowed to post. So all these options will be here, or sometimes they in legal entity overrides, they might suspend it for a single legal entity. If you come and check this account, you will see it is not suspended. So this is for account statement. Actually, you can print account statement. We'll do that later. I mean, but you can see the legal entity overrides again where you have already suspended that for one legal entity. Then you can say that this is suspended for one legal entity. If you want to remove the suspension, you can remove. Users don't have access to this page. Only consultants will have access to this page. You will be given more permissions than users. So if at all users face any issues, they don't know what is the reason for that issue. You have posting transactions. You have to figure it out according to the error message that you get. Dynamics 2 gives reasonable error messages or clear errors. What would be the reason for that particular error, or what is the configuration that is stopping the user from posting any transaction? So according to that error message, you can decode the reason and resolve the issue. So I'll show you how error message and how to resolve the issues as well, depending or reading the error message. So okay, that would be all for now. In the next class, we will discuss about very important topic, financial dimensions. Oh, anybody have any doubt here? Somebody asking something?
It's me, Shiv Kumar.
Japan, sure.
Sir, last point I was breaking on. Can you once again repeat, sir?
Which point was that? What is the last point, guys? So the thing that I was explaining about the menu.
Menu, yes, sir.
Yeah, I was saying that few things are important here. This do not allow manual entry, active dates and suspensions, and legal entity override suspension. So these things are important in support. Sometimes when these are enabled, users might face issues, and users don't have any access to this page to understand that error message. Okay, you have to understand that error and come back here or change some options if they have to change anything. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Bala. Be loud, please. Be loud, little loud.
I have one question regarding legal entity overrides.
Yes, please.
Is there anything, a reason why only one company can be, one company can be only be suspended and not.
Yes, there are reasons. So this particular cash account that we have here maybe will be used in multiple accounts. So in multiple legal entities. So in all the legal entities, everything is fair. But in one legal entity, there might be some discrepancies or issues with the cash account balances or transactions. So they want users to stop posting transactions for that one legal entity in cash account for cash account. So in that case, you can come and suspend the cash account for one legal entity specifically. Until and unless you'll clear the disputes, you don't unsuspend that account again. Okay.
If there is a requirement to suspend one or more than one account, then in that case, this option will be.
So for every account, you have this legal entity overrides option. So if you tell 2-3 accounts have to be suspended, you have to go to each account and create legal entity override and suspend it. Okay.
I mean, in real time, has this situation arise where this option has been used?
I told you the situation already.
Okay.
In case of problems with reconciliation or mismatches of balances or any issues with certain account transaction, then you have to suspend it temporarily and until that disturbances are settled. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You will understand going forward. I mean, in case if you face such issues or if client asks you to suspend that account, then you don't have an option other than suspending it. Okay.
Can we create multiple main account categories like under assets and
Yes,
for other?
exactly. Under
So
assets.
does that helps under default consolidation? Does that help there?
No. That would be help. That will not help in consolidation, but that will be helpful only in preparation of reports or extracting that particular category balances. So suppose if I create a category as current assets and if I keep some assets in the asset accounts in that. So if I extract a report for that current assets category, I can bring all the balances for that current assets.
Okay.
That main accounts. Okay. So I thought of giving introduction about financial dimensions. Anyway, no worries. We will discuss it on Monday. So we'll again meet on Monday. Okay. No, we'll take a leave for tomorrow. So, I mean, tomorrow and day after tomorrow. And guys, I told you about the accounting class actually. So if you want to understand that, you can join half an hour earlier on Monday. Okay. We will start by 7:30 on Monday, not on 8. So from 7:30 to 8, we can discuss about that basic accounting concepts that are required for Dynamics and how usually they use in business. Okay. So this is only for the non-accounting background people. So if they want to understand, we only discuss about the nature of accounts and the different kind of transactions as well as the basic accounting rules and implying those 3 basic accounting rules with the business transactions. So just for half an hour. Okay. I thought of taking it on Sunday, but I would be traveling on Sunday maybe. So we can meet on Monday at 7:30 and we can discuss. That's all, guys. Then if you don't have any doubts, we can drop off, or if you have any, you can ask. I'll just stop this recording from till here.